Max, I'm not sure if you remember, but it was, I think, episode 45, was it? I got it in my notes somewhere.
Episode 45.
Was it episode
rings a
45?
bell.
Yeah, we had a guest was going to be on the show.
And what happened?
She got attacked by
A what?
Some like a kitchen appliance or something.
Some
I wasn't really sure, like a KitchenAid monster.
some
or some
wild
sort of
some wild kitchen appliance attacked our poor guest.
Oh, well, anyway, we want to bring her on. She's a writer. She's an artist, a CBD expert. Her works have appeared in Rolling Stone magazine, Forbes, what else? Vice.
Right,
She's
BBC.
co-founder of the Full Spectrum Revolution, a cannabis publication dedicated to educational and lifestyle cannabis content. Janelle Lassalle, welcome to the show.
Hey, y'all. Wonderful to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Well, I don't know if you know this, but we filmed this in Baltimore. And going through some of your works, I noticed, I knew I loved you when I read this quote here. Every day is a good day for a soft shell crab sandwich. Do you remember that?
What do you know about Baltimore?
It's a truism. I mean, some things in life are classics.
Yeah, and especially in Baltimore, you may not know this, but it's a big crabbing area, and the soft shell crab is a seasonal delicacy, and the sandwich you took an image of is absolutely beautiful. Mm-hmm. And since we're on the topic of food and diet, what's your take on thoughts on CBD edibles and eating CBD? Is that?
I'm a huge fan of CBD. CBD edibles are really fun because they give people a really non-intimidating way to just try it. You know, there are a lot of different ways you can consume CBD. A lot of people might try like oil under the tongue, and while that's, pretty effective, it's not always pleasant to just be sitting here chilling with a mouthful of oil. Nowadays they make some really amazing CBD chocolates. Like, they make ones with adaptogens and nootropics added, which are basically usually other plants. They can be things like ashwagandha, they can be maca, basically as many feel-good plants that you can add into a mixture. So on their own, fantastic. These new kinds that are being modified to have extra herbs, also wonderful. And honestly, no better way to get into a romantic mood than have a little bit of CBD and just feel that chill just go through you.
Nice, Janelle. And I like the way when you talked about edibles, you talked about some ingredients that were also natural, because a lot of times when people think of an edible, they think of maybe a gummy that they have at the gas station right in the windows, stacked up there, stuck to there with, gummies. They'll help you sleep. And if you actually turn the back of the package, there's none of that natural stuff that you talked about there. And I know you've done some reviews on stuff. Do you have any advice on like what to look for in edibles or what to stay away from?
Yeah, actually. So one of the sites that I contribute to is Leaf Report. Leaf Report is a fantastic educational website, just like the Full Spectrum Revolution. They have a really good amount of resources for people who are like, I want to buy CBD products, but I'm not really sure what to look for or how to tell if this is a quality product. They have a buyer's guide on there that's just a really good overview. But just to keep it short and snappy, you basically want to be looking for brands that are transparent. So I get the appeal of that gas station stuff. You're like, oh, it's here. Why not? Try it. Don't try it. Don't do it. Go out. Go to a dispensary. Go online. Look for brands that talk about what's in it, that talk about the extraction method, that talk about where the hemp is sourced, that have lab reports. I think that's the most important part. A lot of people don't realize that because the industry is totally unregulated right now, brands are kind of in a position that they can put whatever they want in there. There's nobody who's going to come down. There's no FDA going to slap them. So it's more important than ever for the consumer to take it on themselves and figure out, like a lab report is basically analysis of what's in the edible, and it tells you, okay, there's this much CBD, it's been tested for pesticides, it's been tested for heavy metals. I would say that's the number one thing to look for when you're buying an edible, is make sure it has a lab report that's at least a year old.
Janelle, I mean, we know you're a super creative person. We knew that when we first met you and talked to you. I mean, you're an artist, you're a writer. Question, how the passion with cannabis and CBD? How did you discover that you wanted to go in that direction?
I actually discovered from the patient side. Myself, in my personal life, was just having a lot of problems with anxiety and depression. So many of us do, just quietly. And I was really looking for things that were new. I had tried conventional pharmaceuticals. I had tried SSRIs, anti-anxiety, benzos, and all of that stuff just made me feel worse. Every pill, every doctor. So I started looking for a natural remedy. And I started experimenting with CBD, and I thought, okay, how can I learn more about this? I'm going to be a bud tender.
Nice.
So I started working in dispensaries, and that's kind of where my little blossoming affection for CBD turned into this whole thing, because really quickly while working there, I saw that there were people who needed medical advice, people who were coming in who were like, my doctor won't talk to me about cannabis, or I'm too scared to talk to them about cannabis. And they would talk to the bud tenders, because they were the only resource they had. And it became clear to me, I was like, wow, actually there's a really, really defined need for some scientific information and firsthand research, which I just kind of made myself a guinea pig and started trying every CBD thing.
What was your experience with that?
The first part is definitely a learning curve, because here's one thing about edibles that people should know. Edibles are subject to something called a first-pass metabolism, which means when you eat them, your digestive tract is going to take away some of the cannabinoids and terpenes and other good stuff in there. Now, the loss of that is variable, but it's generally around 20% is what the research tells us. So me at first, I have a very iffy tummy. So I would eat gummies and eat gummies and eat gummies. I was like, nothing's happening. This is bunk, which so many people are really familiar with that experience, I think.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I actually tried CBD sublingually, so the oil under the tongue, that I felt the effects strongly. And I was like, wow, oh my God, and started researching different types of ways to administer CBD.
Interesting. Right. Yeah, because, ingesting CBD is not the same as ingesting THC. And that's another thing a lot of people get different. I mean, ingesting THC, if you get it a dosing, you may lose a day of your life in La La Land. You know what I mean? Which is necessary and fun in itself. I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. CBD, because it doesn't have a psychoactive effect, when you ingest it, it doesn't have that sort of impact, the psychoactive or intoxicating feeling, and because it's absorbed slowly. Like I think Janelle's explaining, it's how I've sort of experienced it. It's not as instant, so it's a gradual feeling. It sort of lasts longer, it mellows in, so it's not as sudden, I think.
Some people can't handle that intoxication. I mean, nothing wrong with it, but it's not for everybody. So I hear what you're saying. It's a little bit different of an experience. Lord knows we've experimented enough with enough CBD products ourselves.
Yeah,
right?
They also have you speaking of, before we'll get off of gummies, we got to take a break in a second. The Delta 8 gummies. Have you heard much about them? Opinion on that, real quick, before we take a break.
I've tried them. I've heard about them. For the people who may not be as savvy, Delta 8 is kind of it's an analog of Delta 9, which is the most common THC that gets you recreationally high. Delta 8 is kind of tailored for patients because it has less of the psychoactive part, but stronger antiemetic properties. So like for people with nausea, it helps them avoid throwing up. And the gummies are fantastic. I love them. I've tried them. So much fun.
So you get half high?
They get you high, but it's a different kind of high.
Half high?
It's like a high without any of the paranoia. So it kind of it has the THC, like the body high effect, and it has the calming part of CBD, but it's its own unique high.
Well, Janelle, being the creative soul that you are, I know that there's artwork involved. I know that there's writing that's involved. What would you consider your opus?
My opus? Clarify a little bit?
Oh, I'm sorry. So what were you most passionate about? Which piece are you most proud of? Sorry.
Ooh, okay. That's a good one. I would say probably equally for the science pieces and the art, because they're kind of two different expressions of the same feeling, which is curiosity. And that's where the cannabis comes in too. There's a lot of cannabis, and then depending on how I feel, one day it'll be art and one day it'll be a piece of research.
So you have favorites all the time.
I thought you were going to say the winning of the jerk-off.
The jerk-off contest.
Now, for those of the listeners that aren't down on this, Janelle, can you explain the jerk-off that you were champion?
Before we get thrown off the air?
Yeah, I was invited to participate in a cook-off at a closed optional resort in Jamaica. And I thought at the time when I pitched it to my editor at Vice that everybody was supposed to be naked during the cook-off as well. And I didn't realize until I was there competing that I was the only naked participant.
You are so much fun, I'll tell you.
What were you cooking?
Jerk chicken.
Ah,
Yeah, there's the connection, right? That's the connection.
I needed that. Yeah, I needed to make that clear.
Yeah, Max needed some closure there.
Sorry, I needed.
Yeah, everybody. So it was a jerk off because she was cooking jerk chicken. You guys are sick.
Sick.
I'll tell you.
Salty and sick.
My goodness. But yeah, talking about passion and so forth, so because it is Valentine's Day, and I know something that is important to all of us and things we all can use more romance and love, how do you see CBD playing a role in that?
Oh, my God. So if you haven't tried CBD lubes yet, you are in for so much.
Really? They have that?
They have that.
All right, tell us.
Did they sell those at Bed Bath &
Guys,
Beyond?
listen up. Hey, listen up, guys. If you guys are look, Janelle has her finger on the pulse. Have you heard she's written for Rolling Stone, BBC,
Vice.
Okay, Vice. Listen to what
Forbes.
she. Okay.
Yeah, she knows what she's talking about.
Go ahead, Janelle.
Go ahead, Janelle. It's all you.
You guys are too sweet. CBD lubes are a lot of fun. You can get them in just CBD only. If you're worried about the THC stuff, you can get them with THC. But just plain on their own, they can really help with a number of things. Like, they help, in my experience, the research still, we need to do more work. But
yeah, we're not looking for your scientific evidence. We want to know what your experience is.
That's what Doc G's for.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
We want to know your real world experience. We trust you.
Doc G,
have you used it before?
Doc G.
Have you tried it yourself, or is this just what people have said? I mean, we want to know the truth. I mean, this is a facts-based listening audience.
That's right.
We just want the facts here.
We just want the facts.
I mean, in my experience,
Yeah.
they deliver this fantastic increase of blood. So it feels like warmth, just unbelievable warmth, tingling. You're kind of laughing. You're like, what's going on down here? This is delightful and unique. It helps increase sensitivity to the area. So for whatever reason, say you're on birth control, not as much has been happening downstairs, really good thing to try out. You'll suddenly feel, in my experience, definitely on sensitivity, increased flow, more lubrication, naturally speaking. It works on every front. It's just a ton of fun.
Wow, that's great. I hadn't even thought of that.
I mean, okay. And my question is, so the products. I'm assuming you've tried some of these products. Do they have other components in them? Like, is there menthol in them? Is there things like that? Other things?
Oh, that would.
I'm just, I'm asking the question. We want the facts.
What other ingredients would there be in that? Well,
capsaicin.
I would stay away from the menthol and capsaicin.
I would hope so.
So the way the lubes work is they interact with the mucosal membrane, and for those reasons, things like menthol and capsaicin, really bad ideas. The lubes are typically in MCT oil, a lot of them, which is a type of coconut oil, medium chain triglyceride.
Mm-hmm.
Works really well with cannabinoids, so if you find a product like that, that's ace. They can contain other things too, like I've seen ones that contain tea tree oil to help with the natural bacterial environment. They can come with basically a couple of different ones that have herbal formulations as well. But I think generally they tend to just be just the oil that carries the CBD and the CBD itself.
Oh, so it's not not specifically a lube product, maybe, otherwise, unless it's marketed that way. But it could just be the same thing that's in a tincture, basically.
It could. There are actually
Max, you can put CBD drops right down there.
There are companies that do
right down where
based extraction so that you can use them topically. So theoretically, it could be the same thing if you don't have stuff added.
Right. So as far as absorption goes and serving sizes, I would imagine if you have a individually packaged lube would be one way of doing it. But our customers use our products on their pets, under their tongue. Some of them put them on their hairline because they think that helps. Hey, look, people use it. They put it on their feet before they put on their high heels. People use it and that's how it's just whole plant extract loaded with terpenes. Serving size, what do you put, 1 or 2 drops? And would you expect any absorption into the bloodstream? And of course, we're talking about you personally here, or for females. But what about for males? Mm-hmm. The males. I mean.
It's a little trickier, but I think the evidence is that it's definitely localized. I think it does go throughout your entire bloodstream. For men, the research isn't there yet. So that's kind of a big question mark.
All right. Well, there's a lot more research to do.
So you men out there that want to try it, call us. Let us know how it goes for you.
Yes, I may or may not try that later, Max.
You may or may not try that later.
when we're also talking about CBD lube sounds like a great idea, and I think that's another use for it. What about other areas of CBD outside of a topical, like in relationship and so forth? Because I know communication a lot of times is hard, and I know sometimes when I first met. I met Linda, my girlfriend, at the yoga studio. I was a little bit nervous, It would have been, or the first time you go on a date. It'd be nice to have a little bit of something to take the edge off without drinking some alcohol.
Well, you could have opened up with, hey, do you happen to use CBD lube? You could have opened up with that question and seen where that goes, Maybe Linda would have been receptive.
Do people use it for that too, to help with relationships and like communication styles and?
Yeah, the way that CBD works is it interacts with our endocannabinoid system. That's basically all of the things inside of our body that regulate our mood, that regulate our temperature, our sleep cycles. So CBD actually is a fantastic thing to use as liquid courage in lieu of alcohol because it helps regulate your mood. So whether your mood is really volatile or low, it restores it to balance at a homeostatic level.
Yeah, no.
Me and my partner actually smoke a bowl when we fight. We smoke a bowl of CBD, and that helps mitigate things a lot.
That's a really important point because all joking aside, the best way that I've ever described CBD for myself especially is it just takes the edge off. It just allows you to be a little bit more receptive to some other ideas. Some more conversations. Your waves are open, kind of thing. That's how I see it. And to your point about, I know you're passionate about full spectrum, and I wanted to get into that because I know that there's a lot of products out there. Some of them are CBD isolate, this, that, and the other, and we don't have to go too technical, but why full spectrum?
So research has actually shown that full spectrum, which is all of the plant cannabinoids and terpenes being present, it doesn't taper off in effect in a dose-dependent way. And what that means is isolate only works up until a certain point. Say you take 100 milligrams of isolate, you feel an effect. You could take 200, and it's going to be the same level of effect. It's not going to increase. With a full spectrum extract, it increases dose dependently. So there's no cap on the therapeutic effect. If you take 50, that'll be one thing. But if you take 100, you'll have more positive effect.
Okay. Thank you. Is it time for the midway? So if you're just joining us, this is Understanding CBD. I'm Max Sobel. You want to say your name?
I'm Stephen Wallman.
And our guest, Janelle Lassalle, is on Zoom and on the radio with us, and we're talking about some of her favorite things that she's most passionate about.
Yeah,
right?
and love and relationship, and especially when it comes to CBD and the personal stories. Janelle, what part of the country are you in?
I'm based in Portland, Oregon.
In Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool on the other side of town here.
That's Bigfoot country, right? Don't they have Bigfoot out in
anything going on there for Valentine's Day? I know events are somewhat limited all around, but what's happening over there right now?
It's
Give
COVID.
us Baltimoreans an idea what's happening over there.
Portland is actually frozen over pretty solidly right now. The town is quiet, but that doesn't mean I don't have plans. I have
good for you.
Mushrooms and some cannabis, and it's going to be a fun Valentine's Day with my partner.
Very good.
That's
Very
nice.
good.
You writing any good articles now about CBD that you wanted to mention?
I am actually doing a piece on showcasing the women in the CBD industry right now for, I think, March. It should be on in a few weeks.
Oh,
That's
nice.
great.
We've had a few powerful women in the CBD industry
On the show, we have.
too.
Yep.
A lot of local people here in Baltimore with the up and coming crowd here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love your recommendations. I'm basically here to spread the good word.
We talked about, I want to ask you another question. I know we talked about the whole full spectrum concept, and, I know you're a fan of terpenes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to touch on terpenes a little bit and your favorite one or two or 10?
This is an excellent question. So terpenes are the aromatic compounds found in cannabis and other plants. They have their own unique and therapeutic effects. I am a pinene junkie. Pinene is the main terpene that you find when you go into a pine forest. It's actually a phenomenon called forest bathing, which is very therapeutic. You go into a forest, and the part of that is the pinene. Pinene, one of its unique properties is the bronchodilator, so it actually expands your lungs and kind of gives you that amazing feeling when you walk into a forest. It also has a lot of anti-inflammatory effects, and I use it in a diffuser, and I feel like it helps increase my focus and my concentration when I work.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so with that terpene, do you target terpenes when you look for a product, or do you, like, how does it relate to what you're looking for when it comes to products?
That's an awesome point. I think the best way, honestly, for people to purchase products is to tailor to the terpenes as possible. Like I was saying, in that leaf report guide, it talks about lab tests a lot. A really good thing to do, for instance, if you want like CBD for sleep, go into the lab report, look at the terpene analysis. If you want something for sleep, linalool is a terpene that's found in cannabis and lavender. It helps with sleep. It has anti-anxiety properties. So that would be the first thing. If I was looking for, say, an edible gummy with sleep, I'd look in the lab report, be like, oh, okay, in this terpene panel, we have a high amount of linalool. That's probably going to be something that fits.
Well, so what if you're looking at, if you're at the grocery store and you see the product there and they don't have a lab report, or let's say they have a lab report that says this is how much CBD, or it doesn't, and zero THC, but it doesn't have the terpenes listed. What should you assume at that point?
It's really hard to make assumptions because I've done an audit actually of over 100 different cannabis brands. And I found that sometimes a product may contain terpenes, but the vendor just doesn't want to pay for the terpene testing every year, so they don't put it on their site. But they might, if you email them, send it. But honestly, if you see something with a lab report that doesn't have terpenes, I would say you can do better. Go find something that has terpenes. It's not something to gamble on because it's one of the most therapeutic aspects of cannabis.
I think that's great advice. You can do better. You deserve better.
You deserve better.
Every day.
That's right.
Love yourself.
Love yourself
Janelle,
every day.
unfortunately, we're coming up on the end of the segment here, and it always goes by faster than we want. But I want to make sure that everyone can get in touch with you, and how can people follow up with you and have conversations, see your writing, and so forth?
Yeah, you can Google my name, Janelle Lassalle. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Jen Kari. You can check out my work on Leaf Report, some fantastic educational stuff there.